Welcome to the Slade ham experiment from somewhere adrift in the cosmos on my midnight spaceship. Cheers to you. Welcome aboard. There are things I want to talk about this week, as every week I am shuffling my way through this tour. I just got back from South Padre Island. A very good time down there with my friend Raymond Horta. I do a horrible Mexican accent, Spanish accent, whatever that accent is. Raymond Horta. He runs good shows down in the Valley. If you don't know the Valley, Texas is made up of so many parts. I touched on some of them that I've driven through on this tour. I'm not going to linger too long here. I want to get to something, a Supreme Court decision. Maybe, if I have time for it, jobs I don't really respect. We shall see. And then just an observation on life and how I'm putting this set together and how it's sort of how I'm putting life together and where the similarities are. And I just want to ramble and see if we end up anywhere. I encourage you, if you're here, stick around. You might learn something. Click the little subscribe button, too. Enough preamble. Let's get into it. The Secretary, SCOTUS. I always want to say Secretary. The Supreme Court of the United States. Then we got SCOTUS and POTUS and SCOTUS and EXODUS and all these other, they sound like Power Ranger bad guys. Anyway, the Supreme Court decided that Christian graphic designer Lorie Smith. You know I don't stay on the news. I don't talk about the news, but I'm in writing mode. I'm working on stuff. My brain has been forced online more than it should be. You've heard me lament that over the last couple of months. And in doing so, I've fallen down rabbit holes, the same ones I'm bitching about, the same ones you succumb to, the same ones I used to. I'm back down them. So I'm just more hip and familiar to the news. That's all. This won't last. Christian graphic designer Lorie Smith, who says she'd like to get into the wedding website business, has the right to refuse to make sites for same-sex couples. The conservative majority ruled that Smith is exempt from a Colorado state law that makes it illegal for businesses to refuse service to clients based on sexual orientation because her profession is a creative one. Interesting. Forcing her to make a website with content she's opposed to would violate her First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Now, there's a dissent to this. The liberal justices called the decision a license to discriminate. They said it would have the immediate symbolic effect of giving LGBTQ people second-class status. Critics worry it would allow bigoted businesses to deny service to other minorities as well. I have so many questions. So, a creative profession is exempt. So, you don't have to make a gay statue, but you do have to do gay taxes. I do understand. So you can go to, here's the thing about the world. Someone specializes in everything. You can go all the way back to the Greeks. They used to argue rhetoric and logic, and they would sit around and debate things back and forth, and you can read a lot of these. They exist in written form, and you can see how the human brain used to banter or bat ideas around or whatever it was, looking for meaning. But we have specialized now that these people got to sit around arguing about this. Here's how in-depth this gets. During oral argument, several of the justices struggled with the question of whether a website designer is speaking, in quotes, when it creates a website for customers. Justice Kagan noted that many wedding websites are formulaic and questioned whether following a standardized format with some input from the customer constitutes expressive speech. Similarly, Justice Sotomayor questioned whether the person speaking is the website designer or the customer. This goes on ad infinitum. Justice Jackson asked whether, if website designers are engaged in speech, the same logic would apply to other businesses that have a creative element. Justice Jackson asked whether a family photographer who stages personalized Christmas-themed photos has a constitutional right to hang a sign announcing that only white children will be photographed with Santa. Listen, this goes on. There's pages you can Google of the justices. So this is, if I'm being perfectly honest, there's a lot of things I don't know. I think I've been upfront about the fact that I'm pretty ignorant about a lot of stuff. Lots and lots of stuff. I don't know it. I don't know who all the justices are. I also don't know what the Fed is. I don't know what, you know what I mean? I don't know what the budget deficit really actually, I don't know what high fructose corn syrup is. If we're just talking about things I really don't actually know. Anyway, the Supreme Court, how it works, who's even really on it. I do believe in a vacuum, if you asked me to just say what I knew, there are 9 justices, and currently 6 of them are conservative and 3 of them are liberal, I think. But I couldn't tell you who is still on. There's a Roberts, there's a Sotomayor. I think I just read Jackson, Jackson, Franklin, Jackson. One of those 2. There's a Roberts. There's Clarence Thomas. He's on the court. And then, honest to God, I may be stupid. Is that Judge Alito's not on there, right? That's the guy from one of those famous. See, this is so stupid. I'm confusing now justices when they're a little Asian guy with a little big mustache, and he I'm picturing this could be a TV show. I might be talking about heroes. The point is that we have. There are people that are visibly upset about this on social media, and I only know because I'm on there. And I understand the argument. All right, fundamentally, this is how when I have to think about when I allow myself to think about things like this, and I haven't thought about this yet. I copy pasted that story so I could think about it live, and I always get, this would be, if there was like, it's weird how you feel like you got to preface this by saying something. I shouldn't, but I do and I will, because I don't really agree with, if you came into my business and I didn't agree, I'm trying to remove the gay and the Christian elements from it. I'm trying to put 2 other things in there, right? Like if you came in, say I had a bakery, say I make cakes, and say you came in and you said, hey man, I really want this cake and I want it to be chocolate. And I'm all right, cool. I start writing stuff down. We just start talking, and then during our conversation, I mentioned that I watched The Usual Suspects the other night, and you go, oh yeah, that's not very good, is it? Do you see my predicament here? I have a fundamental disagreement with this gentleman about what I think is a foundational human belief that is inarguable. The Usual Suspects is one of the greatest movies ever made. I'm sorry. It's not up for debate. If you haven't seen it, watch it. If you have watched it, go rewatch it. It's just utterly spectacular and well acted and well written and well directed and just so many other things. So if this guy across the counter were to tell me that this movie was terrible, we fundamentally disagree on a basic level, and I don't understand why I'm not allowed to tell that dude to get out of my cake shop. I'm not making you a chocolate cake. You have no taste, you tasteless person. I'll make you a chocolate cake that turns vanilla at the end. You'll probably hate that too. You're wrong. So my point is, if I was the only person who made cakes, if I was the only cake maker, then I should have to make your stupid cake, and you should just be able to go watch some movie that's not The Usual Suspects. But if there are other places to get cakes, but why do you want this angry person to make your cake in the first place? Just walk out. I understand the bigger point. You can hammer it home. You can beat me over the head with it. You can smack me upside the noggin with all of the slippery slope downstream effects. I get it. There's so much arguing. I can't word today. There's so much argumentative everything on this planet that I just putting myself back into situations. Look, if we don't match, we don't match. I'm gonna swipe right, walk out the door, and go get my stupid cake made somewhere else. It's hard. I get it. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's hard to have your own business. You want to stand by your beliefs. You don't want to get caught up. Yeah, there's no real argument against it. Nobody's going. It's not like, I get it if you were making the argument that these guys were coming in and shooting their wedding video as they picked out the cake and putting you on Queer Eye for the queer guy or whatever it was, and you thought it was going to make your business look like it was a gay business or something. I totally understand it, but I just don't think there's that much downstream negativity to it. I think you should make the stupid cake, but I also don't think you should have to. Such a messy world. Everything's messy till you figure it out. That's what I'm trying to do. I realized as I was working on this show, right? My process for writing jokes. Have we talked about this on here? I did a bunch of podcasts over the last month or two talking about joke writing and set building and stuff like that. And I write really long form stuff. And when I look at my set list process, right? So I don't have any of them here. It doesn't matter. I write long form, and then I slowly condense everything down. So it goes from a page to a paragraph to a quick, section and an outline. And then from that down to usually one key word. So I might have a 9-minute story that by the time I'm really performing it, I have it down to one word in my head. Right? I've just condensed it down to that. And as I do that, I realize I do that with almost everything in my life. And then this came as a revelation to me until I realized it's literally like the foundation on which I've built the upcoming book and some other things as well. We have a tendency to take things that happen in long form. We experience them. We live through them. Then when they're done, we smash them down into a paragraph, right? Here's what happened. The whole event, this is a week in Italy or whatever it was. Then you come back and you got to get the paragraph version down. So you hit the key points. That's what you tell all your friends. By the 6th, 7th time you got it down, you just run it through the highlights. That's what you've told now 10, 12 times to your friends, if you're lucky to have that many friends. Not all the other details. You've left out stuff. Sometimes because it doesn't make for a compelling story. Sometimes because they were horrendous memories. Sometimes because we're just absent-minded people. Sometimes you were drinking. But you leave them out. You tell these certain parts. You pack it all away. That's sort of the version that you get forever. And then you file all of that in a little folder called Italy. That's basically how memories are happening. How our lives are going. They're the same way I'm doing it on my outline. Which is cool, right? Because there's something to that condensing deal. The reason I say it's important in my book, the working title of the book is Just a Punch. It has obvious entendre. But the origin of it comes from when I was a kid. I still have a copy of the book, but I remember I used to go to Books A Million. There was a bookstore in Beaumont I used to go to all the time, and I would read books that I couldn't afford them, so I just sit in there and drink coffee and read books. And one of my favorites was The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and it's a martial arts book. It's by Bruce Lee, and there's guys out there like Bruce Lee, who's obviously a martial artist, the same way Bill Hicks is a comedian. But I respect them more as philosophers. So what you have in this book, it's a fond memory, man. He says in there, he goes, when I started martial arts, a kick was just a kick. A punch was just a punch. So then I started studying martial arts. He goes, a kick became so much more than a kick. A punch became more than a punch. He goes, and now that I've mastered the art, a kick is just a kick and a punch is just a punch. And this full circleness of it all adds one more layer to what I'm saying, right? There's the complicated nature of things where we're learning the lines. We're getting the words right. We're practicing things. We're reliving the memory. We're going through the memory, the big chunks of it. And then there's a condensation process. We give them labels, short little boxes. We put them in folders. We file them away. Those become the formal versions we live with, and we don't ever double click on them again. Problem is, we don't keep them open either. We just stick them in the back corner of the closet till we need them. Then we go open them back up. And even though the contents might be 20 years old, we're just knocking the dust off, trying to remember what the memory was. You get as close as you can. You're convinced it's right because there's fragments of it in there. These are terrible ways, because these are the things we build our lives around, right? These are the memories and the activities and the actions that are past and all that stuff. So in the Bruce Lee quote, what he's saying, and this is the layer it adds to it. Because when you don't know anything about anything, it's usually pretty simple. It's usually, things don't seem that difficult. You say nuclear physics, and I go, oh, yeah, some particles and stuff. They smash together. Physics. Now, if we were to double click on that, if we were to go way down the rabbit hole, we might come to find that nuclear physics is quite complicated indeed. A little bit to it. There's some math in there even. Lots of stuff. Pressure and heat and temperature and science and chemistry and explosions and power and forces that I don't even begin to understand. That's a messy, complicated, smashed up bowl of grits I can't even begin to stick my tongue in. I don't get it. But I imagine if I spent a decade doing nuclear physics, at some point, it's just nuclear physics. You know what I mean? And that's the added layer, right? Having to remember that we are completely ignorant of stuff before we get to it. And then it becomes this complicated thing, and then we simplify it, and then we never revisit it again. And that's fine for stuff like jokes, right? I'm done with this bit. I'm not going back to this set list. I remember it in 12 words. Great. Doesn't really matter if I remember the stuff on the inside. I can ballpark tell you what that show was about. I don't need it anymore. But if some of this stuff in your memorization process, your filing away process, the things you're trying to chunk together so they stay part of your life forever, and maybe they're workout regimens, and maybe they're diets, and maybe there's other ways to incorporate large chunks of information and activity in your life and then condense them down into digestible formats. All of that is fantastic. But if it's that easy to be wrong on the front side, it's also that easy to be wrong on the back side. And that wouldn't be important, like I said, if this was just a comedy set or something dumb, the way I was remembering a movie. But it's not. This is what we do with our trauma, with our stories about the past, the things we lived through. Every last one of those runs through that process. The whole traumatic experience, the version you retell, the version you pack away. And if you never reopen that for whatever reason, oh, that's too heavy to get into. Oh, I can't confront that. Leave it shoved back there. No, I don't want to think that through. No, I don't want to think about that. No, God forbid. That's where you are with a bunch of stuff. Just know how very wrong you may be about the contents of that box you packed away oh so long ago. That's all. These are important things. 14-year-old you put some of the stuff in those boxes. You really trust their view of the world? I think about that now. I think about stuff that I filed away in my early 30s, right? I was a grown-ass man in my early 30s. I should trust that dude, but I don't. Have I been out of focus this whole time? When I lean forward, does this not clean up at all? You guys at home can't hear me, but if you're watching me, you'll understand how frustratingly blurry I might have been the first 20 minutes. It's okay. I'm a Bigfoot. I still have shows coming up. I'm in Kerrville, July 8th. You're going to want to catch that. That's a Saturday night. I'm going to Canada for 2 weeks, the 18th of July through the 31st. Ottawa, then Toronto. Toronto, then Ottawa. One way or another. Toronto, then Ottawa. Come back, I think, one more show. Did I add something in Bastrop? I'm going to be close to you, Austin. I'm dancing all around it without getting in it. And then the big taping, August 19th. Go get your tickets. That's right, ta-da. I'm taping a comedy special. What? Yes. Go get that. Unless you have one of the following jobs. Somebody asked me the other day what jobs, if there was any job I didn't respect. And I immediately spit out HR and then bit my tongue because they probably mainly do more bad than good, but there's probably something good that's come out of it. Certainly. So maybe I'll take them off the list, and I would set them delicately next to chiropractors who I also believe are mainly nothing buckets, but they also have maybe helped someone anecdotally. So I move them off to the side. The 5 that make it. Day traders, crypto traders. What are you doing? You don't have any long-term skills. I'm talking to you. Stop it, bros. I bought a Lamborghini. I'm sure you did. I want to see you in 5 years. You're going to be so miserable. Take a class on how to talk to human beings, specifically the female ones. My God. Anyway, the reason I only say that, I'm only tossing them under the bus because I don't think there's any hard skills there. I think you're learning something that is temporary. That's it. That's only my 2 pennies. I think you can learn something that might help you more in the long run. You're clearly smart, so use it. Professional cuddlers. Cuddlers. Yes, that's a thing. You can hire another human being to come over and cuddle you. I mean, look, if you can get by with it, if you figured out a way to rustle up enough people who are willing to pay to be cuddled, it's hard to knock you. I don't know that's got a lot of long-term potential. That's mainly what my problem with these jobs is. I don't think there's long-term potential. Calling them jobs I don't respect might be a misnomer. Valets. You're adding a layer of friction to life that doesn't need. Now, see, I cut myself off. If you have a restaurant that lies up on a cliffside cliff, an oceanside cliff, a cliff above the ocean, a large, where you got to walk up a bunch of stairs, and the allure of the restaurant is that you get to sit at the tippy top on a chair that wobbles, and they hand you your meal, and you got to eat it while you're up there. I understand if you make me park at the bottom, and some guy has got to come up and drive my car to a safe parking spot. I feel you then. But if I'm giving you my keys and you're parking my car, and when I come out of this place, I gotta stand there and watch, where I can look at my car while you're not going to get my car because it's 6 deep in the line. And if I just had my keys, I could get in my car and leave, but I can't get in my car and leave because you won't give me the keys because I'm 6th in line. And that's just how stuff works. And then in the middle of all of this chaos, just give me my keys, man. I could just get the car myself. We go back and forth. You made me wait for 30 minutes. You finally get back. You get the car. You give me the keys back, and then you hold your hand out like I'm supposed to give you money for this that I didn't want you to do in the first place. Sorry, sir, it's valet only. I will walk from Dallas. It's not about the money. It's not. I'll give that tip to the server inside, serving me food on the wobbly tippy top of the Italian mountain. 2 more. Okay. Sensitivity readers. Did you know that was a thing? People who read books for potentially sensitive information. I don't mean sensitive like, oh, you're writing a memoir about your time in Iraq and you accidentally put some classified information in it, you know, like you were in Trump's living room or whatever it was, having a conversation at the golf club about something you heard, and that's too sensitive for our. No, I mean sensitivity readers who might hear some language or hear something about an event that happened that might be troubling or traumatic or triggering or some TR word. I get it, all of those things, but also you can just not read the book. Someone can warn you. I don't think the author, the artist, the person with the story should have their art culled. If I won't stand behind a website, I don't even really agree with a website designer, I'm certainly going to stand behind an author. Write your book. Put it out into the world. Let the world tell you if it's too sensitive. That's how you learn things. Not some knuckleheaded editor working for some publisher, one person who's been trained with a list of words that set off time bombs in their dumb, sensitive head, so they get to go strip art of... God, you just make me I'm making emoji faces. That should have been number one. I think. Now I'm mad that I didn't do these in another order because the final one is bathroom attendant. And quite honestly, right now, as I sit here and think about this, while bathroom attendant may be the shittiest job, I mean, no pun, all the puns, whatever. You know what I'm saying. It's a terrible job. You're sitting in a bathroom, a human bathroom. You're just stuck there, cleaning stuff, the most disgusting stuff, hearing stuff, not to mention the other senses. You're handing people they don't want you handing a towel. No one's been more unwanted than the bathroom attendant. And we put them in the place no one wants to be, worse than anywhere in the whole world. It's the perfect storm of awfulness. Yet, still not as bad as sensitivity reader. I changed my mind. Number one, whoever those people are, we don't need you. I'll do more research. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea. Whatever. It's just a punch. I'm Slade Ham. This is the Midnight Spaceship. You guys have been hanging out. I've been your host. I've got lots of shows. Come watch me while I perform. I'm working on a show. I'm taping it August 19th. It's going to be pretty great. I'll see you again next week.